Do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you.
All right, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Dr. Willie Jolley, and
This is
and we want to say welcome to the Jolley Marriage Show. If you're a first timer, we want to say welcome to the first timers, wherever you may be. And we're glad you're here. For those who don't know, we're the authors of the book, Make Love, Make Money, Make It Love. 10 Secrets to Shape a Great Marriage. This is my beautiful bride of 38 years. 38 years, and we are still just as in love as when we first started.
We like each other.
I really like you. In fact, I love her more than she loves me. It's everybody knows that. That's a well-known tenet, and it's on the 6 o'clock news.
What annoyance to have. What do you mean when you love me more? I love you more.
No, I don't think so. I prove it by getting you stuff. All right, okay. Let's go. First of all, greet everybody to say hello. And we want to let you know that this is being pre-recorded. So if you're sending us messages and we don't respond or don't shout you out, it's because we're doing a pre-record, because we're on the beach somewhere in America. I'm sitting up on the beach having somebody drop a grape in my mouth. No, not really. I wish it were that case, but we are away. And so we wanted to not be away from you, though. You know, what did they say in church? Even though we'll be apart, we'll never be apart. God will never be apart from us, or something to this. Anyway, well, we're away, and we just thank God that we're able to have technology that allows us to continue to have our weekly show with you. And we haven't had a not show in years now. It's been 2-3 years where we've had continuous, not one break in.
Well, let's get to it.
Oh, I gotta talk to people. Just give me a second. Gosh. I mean, I gotta make sure everybody knows we're pre-recording. For those who don't know, you can go to Jolley Marriage and get more information on what we do, how we do it. We can get the books there. If somebody might join and say, well, where can I get the books? JolleyMarriage.com, and we will get the books out to you. All right. And so thank you.
Our goal is to see that you have a happy, fulfilling relationship like we have.
Absolutely.
There you go.
There you go. So we are very grateful.
That's the goal.
That's our goal, and we're very, very grateful. So welcome to the Jolley Marriage Show, and we're grateful for you. And now let's talk about the topic. The topic is part 2 of what we started last week. We couldn't get to all the information.
Sounds of silence.
The painful sounds of silence. Woo. And that was built on was a result of a conversation you had in Orlando, Florida, when we were there.
Last week.
Well, 2 weeks ago now. It will be 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. But for those who don't know, I got the Cabot Award for the National Speakers Association's highest award. That was on Monday, 2 Mondays ago. And then on Tuesday, next night, my mentee, Delafro McNeil, who got inducted in the Speaker Hall of Fame, and Les Brown and I were there, he had a big party. And at that party, a lady, she zoomed in on D. After I talk about Z from the stage, but I tell everybody I would crawl over broken glass to get to my wife, and if she leaves me, I'm coming with her. I love that woman, and I get weak in the knees just being around her. Well, this lady goes up to D and says, how you get your husband to say that? And then goes on to have this in-depth, intense conversation with D about her relationships.
Her first marriage was abusive,
Mm,
physically abusive,
okay.
and she is now in counseling,
Mhm.
and she has met a wonderful young man. And the challenge is when she's annoyed or they have disagreement, he no longer communicates with her.
Mm,
And she gives him the
The
silent
silent
treatment.
mm.
And I'm like, you don't talk to him for an hour or so. She says, no, I can go for days. That's communicating with him. Days not talking. I'm like, well, how do you do that? Do you work it out because you're not talking to him? So you might not have a clue as to what you're feeling. So that's what we were talking about. And that prompted a more in-depth review of the topic, silent treatment as a form of communicating in your relationship. And you know what? It doesn't work.
Right.
So last week, we only got to what is the silent treatment. And that silent treatment is really passive aggressive behavior.
Right. Right.
And you said passive aggressive behavior was what? When you're acting a certain way to get a different kind of result, that you're really not telling the truth.
Right. You're not telling the truth. You're not being open and honest
About what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And you're intentionally avoiding sharing honest information.
And look, passive aggressive behavior is when one person is subtly aggressive toward another. This behavior, it aims to punish or retaliate to a perceived slight. A person exhibiting this behavior will use passive aggressive action rather than communicating their dissatisfaction with words. When you have been the target of the behavior, you might not realize that a person's hostility was purposeful. You may be left wondering why the person treated you so poorly. Was it an accident? Are they being too sensitive? Because you have no idea. You have to make assumptions. Passive aggressive is I'm trying to subtly tell you I'm not happy with you.
But you ignore it, and the person really doesn't
no
know.
idea.
So your response then, we kind of jump into this, is that you have to say, when you do this, this is how that makes me feel.
Well, that's the 4Fs.
Right. Okay,
For those who don't know, the 4Fs are one of the major principles we talk about in the book, and one of the things that we have used with not only our marriage but many others to help them. You know, if you use the 4Fs, they will work, and not a big deal. It's a conditioning of your thinking to be able to rather than responding or reacting in an emotional way, you breathe and you think about the 4Fs and you use those in your conversation.
It's something that you learn how to use.
Yes.
We don't automatically end up knowing that.
Correct.
We didn't automatically know. We learned it over
But
time.
we created it, we developed it
together and came up with these are the 4Fs.
Right.
But this is something you can learn that is beneficial in each kind of relationship.
Yes.
Be it the personal, family, partner, or the work relationship.
Or in the workplace, because you have to have critical conversations often in the workplace. So that's exactly right. Exactly. All right. So that said, how do we help people now through this issue with the silent treatment? Because one more thing, we have one of our inner circle folks, when we told them about this, they said, oh, you should do a show on that. Because this person, I know what time. Now, this person mentioned that in her marriage, which has not survived, that was part and parcel of how she handled it, silent treatment. I say for a day, a couple of days, she said for months. We wouldn't talk for months, and we'd pass notes to the kids, or we'd tell the kids, tell so-and-so that I said such and such.
You know, it's not having an adverse effect on the
Oh, well, that's what we're gonna talk about.
But that was later, because we haven't gotten to the reasons behind
Okay.
because this is where we stop.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've talked about
It's raised the issue of maybe there is a silent treatment because you have a fear of how the other person is going to react to what you might say, or even how you might react once the words, the information comes out of your mouth.
Right.
So that's one reason that people might have the silent treatment. Another reason, a second reason for exhibiting silent treatment is that lack of self-awareness. You might be not sure of how you're feeling, or you might be overwhelmed by what you're feeling. Now, these ideas are not just mine. Of course, I did background research, and Psychology Today's issue from September of 2022
Right.
have suggestions on from the research of why people can be silent and not share what they're feeling. Okay. A third reason. So now we've got, you want to avoid conflict because you don't know how you're going to react or how your partner might take the information. And you certainly don't want to send somebody off on it if they might be violent. That's a whole nother issue. Number two, a lack of self-awareness. You're really confused. You can't really express what it is that you're feeling while you're upset. And then a third one might be, and this is quite common, that people have poor communication skills. Mistexting, nobody writes the complete sentences. We don't really express ourselves. We say things generally, I'm feeling some kind of way. Like I have no idea what some kind of way is.
That's the new statement. I'm feeling some kind of way. What's that? Okay, go ahead.
Are you angry? Are you
Poor
sad?
communication skills, and then they rely on text messaging to communicate their displeasure. And text messaging is the worst. Let me say it again. The worst way to try. Don't email, but text is now these things. I let somebody know.
This is brief.
Well, no, not just because it's brief. Sometimes the signals will send long text messages where they share their thoughts in text that are long. Here's the problem with text. You cannot listen. You cannot hear the inflection in their voice. So we taught a course at church on communication skills. We did it for many years. And we talked about the fact that in the book by Bert Decker, he talked about how many people make the mistakes of trying to communicate through text or written communication and not realizing the importance of inflection in your voice. So we had a thing. I didn't say you stole that car. 7 words. I did, and you changed the emphasis each time. I didn't say you stole that car. 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 Each time I say it with a different inflection or different emphasis, change the whole meaning of the sentence. You cannot do that.
Emphasis was on a different word.
You can't do that in
Every time
text.
you said it,
And you can't
which meant that the meaning changed.
to change the meaning every time. And that is why text messaging for important communications that are vital and critical are a bad way to do it in a
People
relationship.
must hear your,
That's exactly right.
they must hear your voice. Okay. So you got poor communication
Mhm.
skills. You're avoiding conflict because you don't know how the other person is going to react. You have a lack of self-awareness, so you really don't have a sense of clarity as to what you're thinking. 4 is it becomes abusive when it is intended to punish, to control, or to gain power over somebody else.
Yeah, and some gaslighting. Some of them might be gaslighting.
Okay, now you gotta define that.
Gaslighting is where you are making the fit person feel like they are stupid. Okay, that's really what it is. That you're intentionally trying to encircle them with
Many parents think it's their fault.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, the lights and it
What's wrong with
gaslighting came from the
movie.
movie in the 1920s and 1930s where
They try to make you think she's crazy.
husband was trying to make the wife think that she had lost her mind
With
or
life.
inheritance or something.
Right.
And so the gas lights would flicker and she would think that
Say, what's wrong with the light? Say, what are you talking about? What's wrong with the
the
light?
goal is to make you
Hey.
think you're crazy.
Right, something wrong with you. So that's gaslighting. Okay.
Then a fifth one is the silent treatment just to make somebody feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
to give them a guilt trip, right?
Yep.
And then another one is to avoid taking responsibility for the action,
Mm.
for the situation in and of itself.
So I'm not gonna deal with it.
It didn't happen.
I didn't have it at all. Didn't have it at all. What are you talking about? Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, this is good. Now, do you want to go forward? Want me to read out of the book?
You may, Willie Jolly.
So we got communication. This is chapter 4, which we give away free, folks. Everybody can get chapter 4 at jollymarriage.com free. That's the biggest chapter in the book, most powerful, profound chapter. It's chapter 4, and we give it away free because we want everybody to get that. Then, if you want more, you can buy the book.
Okay.
Let me finish with this.
So now we dealt with the.
We talked to the 7 reasons behind. Now let me read.
reasons behind-
Silent treatment. Silent treatment is a form of withholding information, giving your spouse the silent treatment. Typically, is a female way of not communicating, typically with female, but shutting down all communication and hoping your spouse figures it out on their own is not a wise way to keep the communication lines open. Though it isn't wise, it happens in many marriages. One of our friends shared that she would shut down and cut off all communication with her husband when she was angry, and her marriage ended in divorce. How can you communicate if you refuse to talk? How can you fix it? The answer sounds obvious, but people behave this way all the time without considering what an absurd tactic it is, without thinking about the long-term impact of your marriage.
So that really is just an emotional thing. I am annoyed with you.
I'm annoyed.
It's an emotional thing.
I'm annoyed. So
I'm annoyed with you.
I'm not gonna talk.
Right.
And so one person we know, I said, where'd you learn that? She had no idea. And then I realized she probably learned it from television. Growing up, you hear people say, I'm gonna give them a silent treatment, or movies and so forth. Now we see it in reality shows with all this kind of silent treatment. I'm not talking. They hollering and screaming. It's kind of drama.
Well, it's good for the ratings.
Leave the drama with your mama, chapter number 5. It is good for the ratings. I say that. Reality shows, drama is good for ratings. It's terrible for your marriage. And ratings do not help your marriage. Wrong. Not good. Okay, keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay. All right, so now we're down to, examples of what the silent treatment might actually look like.
Right.
So see if you see yourself. Ignoring communication attempts. When a spouse or your partner stops.
What they call it now is, what do they call
There's
it?
just a word for that. When you don't respond to your calls, the
Put
text.
them on ice. I think that's put them on ice.
Is that ghosting? What about
Ghosting, yeah.
Is that ghosting?
Maybe that's part of it. Ghosting, they gone ghost on you. And they gone ghost. Okay, they gone ghost.
Responding to anything.
And they put them on ice. They're on ice.
That means that it's a moment.
Well, that means no communication. I'm not talking.
It's easier to do.
I block them or unfriend them.
That's easy to do when you're dating. I think that's more of a dating or just
Yeah.
a relationship.
But people do take that kind of silliness into their marriages. I'm not talking to you. I'm not responding to your text. I'm not responding to your call. I'm not.
Even though you're living together.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
She said they went for months without talking to each other. How do you do that? How does that happen? How do you shop for food? How do you
Oh, you write it out. Right.
wow.
You write it out.
Wow. That is not the way to sustain a relationship. Not a way to sustain a relationship.
All right, so you ignore.
You sleep in separate rooms. All that kind of stuff.
Communication attempts.
Mhm.
You might sleep in another room,
Yeah. We have somebody who has to go through that too.
or you sleep on each side of the bed until you almost fall out on the floor.
Wow.
Okay, another example of a silent treatment is to avoid eye contact. How about that?
Wow. You avoid eye contact.
Avoiding eye contact or acknowledging that the person is even in the room. How about that?
Wow. Don't even see him at night.
So wow, so you pass each other. What would you do when you go to the bathroom, go to brush your teeth and go to the bathroom?
Brush your teeth like you. I mean, how do you do this? I don't understand. Anyway.
So number 3 is you become emotionally distant. So we hold hands on each other.
Right.
So no handing, no, certainly no kissing, no hugging, no nothing.
No sex?
Of course not.
Oh Lord, what would I do? What would I do? How would I
You
respond?
immediately go to that one.
I would go right to that. I don't want no silent treatment. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to talk. No, that don't work. When I'm withholding affection is one way people do this. They don't talk, they don't touch, they don't hug, they don't kiss, but no sex.
And then you wonder why. I had another friend this weekend who was shocked. The spouse said they wanted a divorce after they've been living in separate, sleeping in separate rooms for 5 years.
Wow.
And now you're shocked that
Yeah,
it's officially over.
yeah, that's bad.
Wow.
That's bad, and that's bad. The communication is limited. How do you fix it if you don't talk? Like no dead time. Is that what it's called? Dead time? When it's in governments and nations don't talk?
They talk.
They talk.
Discussions.
Yeah.
Those are like formal
Right.
discussions to come to some resolution.
Okay.
Okay, so another one is instead of engaging in open and honest conversation about issues, you just remain silent or you refuse to address that particular issue.
Avoiding the discussions. Avoiding. Well, we're not discussing it.
Mhm.
We're not having that kind of.
Mhm.
Which kind? Okay, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Your stonewall is just one of your favorite things.
I gotta read up on someone. Let's read it right out the book. Okay. Withholding information come in a number of ways. One way is when people only tell part of the truth. The trouble is that your spouse only knows part of the story. It impacts the ability to get the whole issue resolved. Stonewalling is another way that information is withheld. According to the well-known marriage counselor John Gottman, stonewalling is usually a male issue. It is when someone refuses to communicate and says things like, "This is the end of that conversation. I'm not talking about this one. Let's go." Or "Do what you want to do. No more. I'm done." This can sound like I'm over talking to you. Often this is behavior that is taught to young men along with the concept of being strong, silent, and never crying. It's old-fashioned, old thinking, destructive, and needs to change. We don't stonewall around here. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. So
I think we talk, but you're in the talking business. And I think that overgeneralization here, that men tend not to be as expressive generally as men.
okay, but they can learn, and they can develop that skill set. That's a teachable, learnable concept. I need to express myself. Now, I'm not comfortable, but I can
So you
learn
can
to.
practice it, but I would say that was more for on my end in terms of growing than on you. Because you are hardwired to talk.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. Shoot, you're hardwired to talk. Yes, you are.
Well, I got something important to say, all the time. I got something very important.
More. I'm an introvert. Not shy. An introvert means I'm thinking, pondering before I say it. You, on the other hand, in terms of being extrovert, you're thinking and saying it at the same time. You're thinking
Let's
and
go,
saying
baby.
it at the
Let's
same
let it go. Let it ride. Let
time.
it.
Sometimes I have to be like that. But I had to force myself out of my comfort zone to say, this is
You did
this
so
is-
well. You did so well. Getting out of her little comfort zone.
This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. Until I became comfortable with expressing myself and not just thinking about it. That you needed to know what I was feeling.
Yeah,
And the only way that you could do that is if I told you.
right.
And it was uncomfortable for me initially, a long time, I don't know, years away, but I would have to practice I need to talk to you about this.
Right. Mhm.
But habits change.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You can change your habits if you really want to,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then extended periods of silence, just weeks or months of silence,
Wow,
which is a
unbelievable.
toxic environment, right?
Yep. Yes, extended amounts of time. Silent. I just can't get over that. Then we got to go to the next part, how to handle, manage. And then remember that some people are not talking because they are afraid of
The
the reaction,
repercussion
the repercussion.
from the mate or
Right.
partner.
That's correct.
And if there's violence, if there's physical abuse, leave.
Leave.
Counseling.
We're not telling you to divorce them. We're saying leave. Now y'all they have to change that.
But we're not saying get anybody to stand
No stay.
with physical, emotional
What's that?
abuse can be as damaging as somebody beating you upside your head.
Well, as Dr. Fluid said, when a person hits, when a spouse hits their spouse, that person's crazy. When a person stays after being hit, they're crazier. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, how do you manage the silent treatment? How's the other person manage the silent treatment? Ask yourself, what is really going on here? Do I understand what's going on here? And if you're the one who is doing the silent treatment, why are you doing that?
Why are you doing this as a way of communication or lack thereof? Okay, why are you doing it?
And I think the hard part when we talk about self-awareness is being honest with ourselves as to what we're feeling.
Right.
That's the hardest thing. Why am I doing the silent treatment? Because you know it's not healthy.
Right.
So am I doing it to hurt them? Why did they hurt me? Is this my way of striking back?
Right.
So the most important thing is to identify why you're doing it. And that's a hard conversation to even have with yourself. Right there, you might need counseling. And think about it, there's nothing wrong with counseling, particularly in this day and age. Everybody goes counseling everything. Right. It's not the kind of shame that it used to be, that I need somebody neutral to talk me through what's going on. Right? Okay. How do you handle it? Initiate a conversation. That's all. A calm conversation. That goes to your 4Fs. I put this out here. That's part of our 4Fs.
Right.
Be friendly, be friendly, be frank, be fair. Be focused on a positive result for everybody.
You went through it so quick. Be friendly. Don't go in hot. You have to calm yourself. When you go in hot, you put up defense mechanisms. When you're angry, you got to calm yourself. You have to be calm.
It might take several days. It might take a ride.
It shouldn't take several days. It should not take several days to calm yourself, Dee.
Because you know what?
But that don't make no difference. It should not take. You can go for a ride. You can go for a walk. You can count to 10. But something wrong with you if it takes several days for you to calm yourself. Something is wrong with you.
That's sound with them for weeks.
Something wrong with that. Yeah, but something wrong when you get mad and you mad for 3, 4, you can't calm yourself. Calm yourself. Do a panic interrupt. Go for a walk. Count to 10. Breathe. Go for a drive. Calm yourself.
Then practice the 4Fs.
4F. That's number 1. Be friendly. Calm yourself. Go in cool. Go in calm. Number 2.
We need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to have a conversation, and maybe it needs to be in a neutral space.
We got to stop. We're over time. We got to come back.
We are?
We are. Our time is up.
Oh.
Wow. We got more stuff to do. We got still more points to do. Listen.
The next time.
Next time we'll start with that. In the meantime, we out with this. Our music from my jazz album. Hope you enjoy Close to You.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you.